Hey yo, salute to the people. It's the social forecast. Today is Saturday, October 12th. It's a little after 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I hope you all do something today to further your goals and to help you realize your dreams. Let's talk about vapes. So I'm going to read from two articles. One is from an outlet called Slash Gear, and the other is from the New York Times. And after I read these two articles, we're going to kind of talk a little bit about some of the unofficial ramblings, rumors, rhetoric that's going around from people who actually use vaping products. So this first article in Slash Gear was written by Brittany Ralston. Title is FDA orders 44 vaping products to be pulled from shelves. The article reads as follows. The Food and Drug Administration has ordered 44 vaping products, including items sold for hookahs and e-liquids, to be pulled from shelves in the United States. These products can't be legally sold, according to the agency, because the companies behind them do not have the proper marketing authorization. The news arrives amid the FDA's ongoing investigation of a possible link between vaping and seizures. Goes on to say that according to the FDA, the following companies are selling a variety of vaping products illegally. Some of the companies listed here include Liquid Labs USA, V8P, Juice International Hookah Imports, Mighty Vapors, and there are a few others listed there. The article then goes on to say the companies have been given 15 working days to respond to the FDA with info on, among other things, when they plan to discontinue distribution and or sale of applicable products. Acting FDA Commissioner Ned Sharpless, who's a medical doctor, is kind of at the forefront or spearheading this. I don't know if some people are calling it a witch hunt, investigation, research, whatever. But this acting FDA Commissioner Ned Sharpless said the following. We are committed to tackling the troubling trend of youth e-cigarette use by continuing to use all available regulatory tools to ensure these products aren't being marketed to, sold to, or used by kids. It is critical that we remain vigilant in our efforts to stem the increase in use and nicotine addiction in children driven by e-cigarettes, which threatens to erase the years of progress we've made combating tobacco use among kids. The agency is cracking down on vaping products as health officials express concerns over the unknown long-term consequences of vaping. Though electronic cigarettes are largely viewed as less harmful than cigarettes, a number of students have raised concerns over potential health ramifications caused by contamination, certain flavorings, and more. So this first article really touches on the FDA as an agency, limiting, restricting, and in some cases even banning the sale, the legal sale of vaping products nationwide. This other article that I want to read is actually from the New York Times, and it focuses more on the state that I currently reside, which is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The New York Times, this article title is Massachusetts orders 4-month ban on sale of all vaping products. So the last article, the FDA listed out certain products, certain companies that they are banning the sale of vaping products, I guess so they can do further research, or so that these companies can present to them some kind of a plan on what they plan to do, and maybe hope to get the proper authorization. As that previous article stated, those companies are being banned because they don't have the proper authorization. But in Massachusetts, a different kind of approach, a temporary 4-month ban on the sale of all vaping products. The state's action is the toughest to date, as vaping-related illnesses and teenage use of e-cigarettes climb. Facing declining sales and public backlash, Juul, the dominant e-cigarette maker, is considering layoffs. I want to talk about that too, because that seems to be a big part of this whole story, as it is ongoing. All right, so the New York Times article that I read says the following. Massachusetts on Tuesday went farther than any other state, as Massachusetts typically does, in trying to keep e-cigarettes out of consumers' hands, with its governor declaring a public health emergency and ordering a 4-month prohibition on the sale of all vaping products. Hours later, Juul Labs, the e-cigarette company that has become synonymous with vaping, said that it had begun a restructuring plan that could result in layoffs. Division heads have been ordered to submit specific plans by Wednesday, which would have been 2 days ago, I believe, to deal with financial headwinds, according to a person familiar with the company's strategy and finance. The two developments are the latest in an escalating nationwide backlash against vaping, as the number of people who have developed severe lung illnesses after using vaping devices continues to climb. The latest tally from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is 530 cases. But a top CDC official told a congressional committee on Tuesday that the agency will announce more cases this week. 9 deaths from the vaping-related ailments have been reported so far. Also on Tuesday, the California Department of Health urged state residents to refrain from all vaping, no matter the substance or source, because I guess there's a kind of debate going as to whether it's the nicotine side of vaping versus the THC side of vaping that are causing these illnesses related to vaping. No one really knows yet, and so Massachusetts just figures, fuck it, we're just going to net everything and close everything off and suggest that people just don't use anything until we have more information. The exact cause or causes of the sicknesses has not been identified, and health investigators have not pointed to any specific company, brand, or device, which that part's important. But the illnesses have led to hundreds of hospitalizations, with many of those infected in intensive care units. Health officials have said many patients have reported using vaping products containing THC, the high-inducing ingredient in marijuana. Others have reported using products containing THC or nicotine, and some had used both, some having reported using only nicotine products. But Governor Charlie Baker said the Massachusetts ban would cover all vaping products, whether they were flavored or unflavored, used with nicotine or with THC, or purchased online or in stores. So this is like a complete blanket ban. Fuck that. Y'all not selling shit. Y'all can't buy shit. And the ban was approved by a state public health council on Tuesday afternoon. The governor says this: I'm declaring this public health emergency because medical and disease control experts have been tracking a rapidly increasing number of vaping-related illnesses that in some cases have led to death. And then it goes on from there to talk more about the different vaping companies and Juul and what that company plans to do as a dominant conglomerate in the e-cigarette and vaping industry. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the articles go. Here's my problem. Well, here's the thing that I kind of want to get your opinions about and see what you all feel about it. The people that I've spoken to who are heavy into vapes, some of whom have completely strayed away from cigarette smoking, and some who still kind of do both. A lot of the people who use vapes who I've spoken to are upset because they feel as though, so the conspiracy theories come into play. Some people feel as though it's the tobacco companies that are whistleblowing and throwing up these red flags and sending up these red flares. Because I was just talking to someone earlier before I decided to do the vlog, and they were telling me, behind the scenes, it's the tobacco companies that have really been pushing to have vaping looked more into. And it's cutting into traditional tobacco products profits, which further hinders their ability to make money and do business, which they were almost, I guess if you want to say, profits almost cut 30-40% because of the kind of truth campaign that started in the early 2000s, if you all remember, if you're old enough. I remember the 80s and 90s, to talk about the tobacco companies for a second. They used to have merchandise, they used to have commercials, they could publicly advertised at billboards. And then when the whole truth campaign started, and when people really started realizing the ramifications and health risks caused by smoking, it was like the government just completely shut it down. And it seems like every year since, there's like a tax increase on tobacco products to try and, I guess, dissuade more and more people each year from purchasing and consuming tobacco products. Now, I say if the tobacco industry can be hindered in that way, regulated in that way, why not the vaping industry? If you want to operate in this capitalistic society that we all are part of, if you want to do business and operate in a free trade market, then either be in business and deal with the shit that comes with it, or don't be in business. To me, it's that simple. But the people who are actually into that whole vaping thing, which I am not. I tried it originally when it first came out. I was always a person who said, this shit don't seem like it's, I can see where it's a little healthier, but it still seems like there could be some potential health issues there. Because essentially, vapors are, essentially it's liquid, and you're inhaling that into your lungs over a period of time. So I've always felt like there could be some potential issues down the road there. And early on, there were a few cases of people getting walking pneumonia and fluid in the lungs and whatever. But when you talk to these vaping enthusiasts and people who really, really are into vapes, they feel as though it's the different liquids and the different vaping products on the black market and the bootleg companies and products that are coming out that are not as safe, or that don't use the right recipes or combinations of chemicals and flavoring and whatever else, that it's those products and those oils, even the THC black market oils and the CBD and all those different things, it's the incorrect I guess amounts, and then the way that people are using the vapes, because you can kind of customize certain vapes, and you can use certain oils and vapes that have a higher, I guess, voltage or amperage, or I don't know. I'm not really into vapes, so I don't know what you would call it. But the way someone explained it to me was, there are people taking the cartridges out of Juuls, for example, or THC oil or CBD, and then they're putting it in these high voltage, high powered vapes. And essentially what they're doing is they're scarring and burning their lungs because it's the vape is too powerful. Or people are using a high voltage of vapes for, let's say, THC oil, and what they're inhaling, because of such high voltages and them not using it properly with the proper devices, they're essentially inhaling burned oil, and it's burning their lungs. What I want to know is, from the people who are into vapes, the people who do it religiously, the people who say that it's so much better than cigarettes, and they've completely switched over, they swear by it, and they're waiting this 4-month period to get back into it. what do y'all feel is the real reason for why vapes are being pulled off the shelves? One, and two, it may be an alternative as far as helping you to quit smoking, but is it, once you do that, then what? Like, is it, because I feel like there are so many people out there who do it just because of the ability, for the most part, to do it indoors, because you can't regulate non-smoking of vape the way that you can cigarettes indoors. Some companies have done it. Some government buildings have prohibited it in certain cases, but for the most part, like I said, it's just vapor. So you really can't, to the extent that you can prohibit cigarette smoking, you can't really do the same thing to the same extent as you can with cigarettes to e-vapes. It doesn't really translate over the same way. But for the people who are really into the vapes and now are, I guess, running low on their supplies and wondering and waiting for that 4-month period to be up if you live in Massachusetts, and if you live in other states, not knowing what they're going to do, maybe they go to other states, or maybe they go online and see if they can purchase these things, from other areas. What do we really feel? What do we really think about vapes? I mean, if you know that cigarettes are harmful and unhealthy, and you're using the vape as a way to quit, or at least transition to what you think is a more safe alternative, are you guys willing to acknowledge that there could potentially be some health ramifications with using vapes? I don't know. I mean, I can see the appeal of it. There's flavors, there's better smells, there's, these cool little devices that light up. So I can see the appeal of it. For me personally, I've never bought into it because I just like the traditional, if I'm gonna smoke, I'm gonna smoke. I'm not gonna use a vape. It's just not my thing. But clearly there's an appeal there, and I see the appeal, and I've always wondered exactly what that whole process and changeover was like. In Massachusetts, after this 4-month ban is up, it'll be interesting to see exactly what the landscape of the vaping industry looks like for the companies that are still left standing, because I think this 4-month period is going to hurt most of the companies, so much so that they may end up closing their doors and shutting down. There have already been layoffs. There's already been loss in sales, for the companies that aren't as big as like a Juul. So whatever companies are left, it's going to be interesting to see how they maintain. As far as other states where there's kind of just this blanket, indefinite ban on certain products, certain devices, what are you people who are no longer going to be able to get your vapes and your vaping devices? Do you go back to smoking? Do you quit cold turkey? What's the plan for that going forward? That's that part of it from the standpoint of the people who are into vaping. Now, my conspiracy theorist shit, just me being me, to me, if I get to a certain extent the FDA saying what they're really trying to do is limit what they feel is the targeting of these products to young people, to children, to underage people, teenagers and such. As far as adults go, as an adult, if you are consuming, purchasing legal products, there should be no reason, these are not controlled substances, there should be no reason the government should be able to stop you from doing that. It's no different than, I predict, me personally, if this goes on too long, you may see a backlash similar to the backlash that we saw in the 20s and 30s during the alcohol prohibition, when people said, nah, fuck that. Y'all can't take away our alcohol. Y'all cannot tell us that we cannot drink. We are adults. We should legally be allowed to consume alcohol if we so choose. I think it's possible this may, because they're already calling it a vaping prohibition. I think enough people are into vapes and enough people see it as a safe alternative to cigarette smoking, and the negative stigma in 2019 that you have on cigarette smoking does not exist for vapes. I don't think it can be even considered comparable. And so I think there's enough people that are doing it. There are enough companies that could potentially be harmed by it, and employees who can potentially lose jobs if this ban continues, that you may see people actually challenge it. And that's when you really start to see an interesting kind of shift in the landscape when the government tries to implement these things. Prohibition on alcohol didn't last because the people were not beat for it. Enough people said, nah, you're not taking away our alcohol. And that revolt went on long enough that eventually it was like, okay, the government lost that fight and had to concede to the people. We now see in pretty much every state now, for those that have not done it yet, are quickly following suit. Recreational use of marijuana being decriminalized, and at least on the state level in those states being legalized. And I foresee at some point the federal government having no choice but to follow suit with what's happening on the state levels. You can't continue, in my mind, and have it make sense to have things be legal at the state level, but continue as the federal government to say it's still illegal federally. At some point, you're going to have to get on board, and I foresee that happening when it comes to marijuana. But it's the same thing. Enough people started saying, listen, y'all got no medical research. This ain't tobacco. This isn't vaping. Where's the medical research that shows people getting sick and people dying from marijuana use? And this went on long enough, and you had enough experts for a long enough period of time, and you had enough in the way of positive reinforcement from cancer patients and people dealing with high levels of stress and anxiety, who experts were able to prove benefited from the use of marijuana, that eventually, it was a win for the people in that community who are weed smokers or who do it for medicinal reasons. Is that what we're going to see with the vapes? But I want to know what you all who actually are into vapes, what do you all think? Is it a black market conspiracy? I mean, is it a conspiracy? Is it the tobacco companies trying to whistleblow and get back at the vaping industry, similar to how the taxi cab drivers jumped in and went at Uber and Lyft when they started taking their business? Is this an issue with black market products and third party, off the books and off the board products and devices that are making people sick? Is it the improper use of these devices and buying the wrong type of chemicals with the wrong type of devices and customizing and altering devices? Is it the user, the consumer, who are causing these sicknesses? Who do you all blame? And how bad do you think this is going to get? And how long do you all think it's going to last? I'm interested to know. That's why I decided to do this vlog on the whole vaping shit that's going on. Because you literally walk into a store now, especially in Massachusetts where I live. You walk into a store now and the shelves are literally empty. Like, you see those sections where they had all the vapes and it's just stripped. It's just completely empty. And 4 months, they're supposed to put everything back on the shelves in Massachusetts. I don't know how that looks in other states. And I don't know when those products come back on the shelves, even here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Are they the same products? Are they going to be watered down? Is it going to be, the same as people remember it? Because what's this 4-month period for? It can't just be a latency period. It can't just be a waiting period. There's something that's happening during this period, whether it's behind the scenes or we don't understand all that is entailed. But I'm sure that the state and local governments, along with the CDC, along with the Attorney General and the Surgeon General, I'm sure all these entities, agencies, individuals are working together to try in some way, shape, or form alter whatever they think is going on with these different products and devices. But I don't know. That's why I'm putting it to y'all. Let me know what y'all think. Like, comment, and subscribe. What do we think about the people who work for these companies, who have lost and are in the process of being about to lose, and who will lose their job in the next coming weeks and months? Because this is now a new industry that quickly rose to become $1 billion industry. Now looking like it could be snuffed out literally within a 4-month time period. But I don't pretend to know everything. I just know what I know. Like, comment, and subscribe. It's a social forecast. See you on the next one. Peace and love.